stop listening to the wrong news.
Come and listen to us. We're talking all about current day events, and we are happy you are here. Come on inside.
And this is Dana Jensen, our fabulous, incredible psychic medium who has knowledge and has just inspired me with so many things on this journey that we are on. So welcome, Dana.
Hello, welcome everybody. Welcome, Heather. I was just looking at your backdrop there. How amazing is that? You are such a talented girl. I love your big rabbit that's standing behind you. Does he have a name?
Yes, this is Bartholomew, and he is 5 feet tall, and he is dressed up for the season, whatever. I just like playing around and having fun with decorating, and of course I have my beautiful mystical items and my stones and my crystals and things like that mixed in with it as well. So just
so important to have that. Yeah, so important to have that stuff around us. And how does it make us feel? And have you ever noticed that when you do decoration or you change the theme, you're always cleaning at the same time? Have you ever noticed that? You never ever set it up without cleaning it. And there's always something good about cleansing, right? Cleanliness is next to godliness, is what they say.
Yes.
Yes, good. So
your background, if I can just say, it's so full of energy. It's the light, the green, and it's like you're in a forest. I'm just coming up with the things that I'm seeing. And
technology is amazing.
Yeah. It's just like you are out in the forest and that beautiful sunlight just sparkles in, and that's the energy. That's the energy of the non-physical around you. Yes.
Well, I think that leads us into our topic, because it's so interesting when you're looking at what's going on around the world right at this point. It's like, holy cow. And we wanted to talk about current events and so on and so forth. And there is such a negative connotation. I mean, you're hearing it everywhere you go, where people are like, oh, I'm going to get shut off of YouTube, or I have to go over to this platform, or I can't say this, or what have you. And in a way, I think that's kind of a falsehood as well, because I know I'm watching these people on YouTube saying they can't be on YouTube, saying certain words like labs, like this, like that, yet they say it. And you're sitting here and you're looking at it going, but then I've actually had channels that did go down. Like I went to go look for them and I could no longer find them on that platform. And I'm like, okay, so it does really happen. Yet all of a sudden something switches or something changes, and I can see these people who are saying things on these platforms. And I'm thinking, man, is there some sort of, I mean, they always say life is a stage, right? So is there some sort of just shitty ass movie we're watching right at this point, and it's changing the psychology of people? And, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about this, because, we can switch it back. We can actually put it into an interesting perspective where it's not actually affecting us the way they want it to, more the way, okay, we're absorbing it because we want to be aware. Like, I know people say, oh, just don't look at the negative stuff, or don't participate in the negative stuff. But I don't know if that's necessarily the right answer either. I think we need to kind of have a broad spectrum, pretty much, of what's going on in your community and what's going on in beyond the community and what's going on in the world, because it does change the energy. I just think that when you're watching something, like I was watching that thing in Ottawa that was going on. And do you remember the horses trampling that woman?
Yes. Yeah.
So I want to talk just a little bit about this, and I want you to understand my perspectives of what it was that I was seeing there. There's such a thing called false flags, where they put out this reenacted event that ends up happening. And it's a problem action solution or problem reaction solution. They actually design how this goes. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching this woman, and she, you know, I'm watching these horses come around the corner. I'm watching the whole thing, and I watch it right from beginning to end. And there was some very glaring problems with what I was seeing. They were making it as if it was an accident, when you could perfectly tell that it was something that was constructed, it was designed. Not only that, there were so many things that were wrong with it. They were saying this woman was being trampled by the horses. Well, you know, not only that, these mounted police couldn't ride if their life depended on it. None of them. They didn't even have it. The simplest thing when you are riding a horse is to keep your heels down. If you keep your heels down all the time, you won't come off the horse.
Right.
I learned that very quickly. My mom was a riding teacher. I grew up with 9 horses. I understand horses, and I can understand when people don't know how to ride. I can see it. So I'm watching these mounted police who couldn't ride a horse if their life depended on it. And I know that they go to training, 4 months, I think is what it is. And it's 8-hour-a-day training riding horses. If you were riding 8 hours a day for 4 months, you will have a very good grip on how to ride a horse. So as far as I'm concerned, all that you saw there was a false flag, because these horses, and I watched very closely, jumped over the people that were lying in the middle, because horses will do everything in their power not to step on you.
I recall seeing that as well, that they jumped over.
Because horses will not trample people. They just will not step on people. They won't trample people. They will do everything to avoid it. The only way that it would ever happen is if it accidentally, you kind of got trapped in it or under it. Yes, then, you know, sometimes I'm sure it could be unavoidable. But those horses were in a row, and you could see them jumping over the people, because that's what horses do. So when you're watching this, and then it was this big, huge thing about what was going on, but you've got to understand, this is what news has now become. So I think it's good to watch it to understand it. I'm somebody who will watch it and then say, okay, this is what they're telling me. And then I go to the equal and exact opposite of what the story was or what the scenario was. And then I bring it to the middle. And somewhere in the middle, there is the truth to it. There's some truth that you can resonate with it. And that's how I deal with everything that I've been seeing in the news for the last 3 years. It's affecting people. It is something, it's making people crazy in some sense.
But who helped expose this about fake news, right? And
I wonder.
Our past president. And so anyways, and this is something that you cannot trust these things, because the things that you can do, you can change up everything and by on computer and just scribble out something and put something else in its place, and it is just horrible sick fake news.
Well, I can tell you that when I'm looking at politicians or I'm looking at different people, when I'm watching them, I watch very closely. I'm very good at reading people, so I watch very closely. And when I'm looking at people, my brain registers detail, right? So that's what it just does. That's how I kind of function. So I'm sitting there one day watching Trudeau. I was going to say a nasty word, but we don't need to do that. So I was watching him one day, and then the very next day I'm watching him again, or a couple of days later maybe, and I'm like, man, he looks like he's like 20 pounds heavier, and he has a gap in his front teeth. And I'm watching and I'm looking and I'm like, it looks like him kinda, but not really.
Oh.
So I'm watching this and I commented on it. I was like, boy, it's amazing how you can gain 25 pounds in 2 days. Like, what the heck is that? And that he had this gap in his teeth. Sometimes he has a gap in his teeth and sometimes he doesn't. So what does that mean? And then when you look at certain people, I don't know, Biden doesn't look like the same Biden. Ears don't change, right? I have an earlobe that isn't attached. And when you look at Biden back 20 years ago, when he was, a slimy politician that he really was, oh, did I say that out loud too? I have strong opinions for him. But, he had an earlobe like that. It was detached. Now, all of a sudden, his earlobe is not detached. It's stuck to the side. There's no lobe. It's just all of it. And you're thinking, those are not the same ears. It's not the same forehead. And if you actually go back and look at these things, you can see, yes, there's age. Yes, there's this. Yes, there's that. But there's certain things that change. Even Trump looks different to me sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Even looking at him. And honestly, I wish I could say, and I wish I could be that person who says, you know what, Trump is doing a good thing. There's a lot of things that he's doing, but unfortunately, I think it's just part of the whole bigger agenda. I think he's part of it in his own role. And, everybody has a line in their sand. Like maybe he just doesn't believe that kids should be hurt or women should be trafficked or what have you. He's done a lot of good things. Don't get me wrong. If you've been watching them, I don't know one good thing Trudeau has done. Not one. I can't pick one good thing that he's done other than legalize marijuana. So you don't have to, and maybe that's not such a good thing either, right? Maybe that wasn't because you can just sit around and be stoned all day. Right. I didn't really know where this was going to go, but I'm worried about the psychology of everybody. I'm worried about, they feel like they're exhausted by this, and it's their perceptions on all of these things that are going on that's a problem.
Yep.
Totally agree.
Yep.
0.03% of the world's population, 0.03% of the world's population has lost somebody to COVID. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you and make a very bold statement that most people have not personally lost anybody to COVID.
Right. Yeah.
And in 2 years or 3 years now, I haven't had one single person come for a reading for a COVID-related death. Not one.
Beautiful.
So what does that tell you?
Right. Well, we're being brainwashed, right? We're being brainwashed. And we're just, I don't know, people just aren't getting it. They are believing the social media. They're believing the news, and it's just, it starts from the top. Have you ever heard of George Soros?
Oh, of course. Yes.
Yes.
Heather, I will tell you that if there was any conspiracy ever created in this world, I've probably looked into it. Good. Yeah. And he's one of them.
Yeah. And from what I've heard from others, that he's at the top of it because he's got so much money that he's able to pay off people all the way down through our governments, through our news stations, radio, TV.
That's what it is. It's probably 5 corporations that own all social media or mainstream news. 5 corporations. And if you actually watch them, it's called Mockingbird Media. Everybody gets their agenda in the morning, and this is what you say. And then, especially in the States, you go through each newscast, and they're all saying the exact same thing. That's not free reporting. That's Mockingbird Media. So they are pushing an agenda. And if you can't, when you look at the news and they've got these big red things and so many people have died, and so you can tell that even watching it, what the agenda is, you can see that they are just trying to invoke fear. Even with the masks, the only way we actually knew there was a pandemic was everybody was walking around in masks. That was the reminder. And that's the slave class. If you actually think of the psychology around masks, you become depersonalized, you stay away from people, you no longer touch, you no longer feel, you no longer look at each other. Plus, you needed to be reminded that we needed to go back to normal. So take your masks off and don't forget to inject this poison into your system. And all of a sudden, this is what everybody does, thinking it's okay. Yet I know there was people who were sitting there going, I really don't want to do this. I really don't want to do this. And I could probably feel that as they were, I'm sure some of them were like, yeah, get it into me. You know, we're good. But I can tell you that I'm sure there was tons of them that saying I was forced into it. This was what it was. And this is where it's going again. And this is what's going to happen when they take money off of the table, where you no longer have the right to choose. They are going to have complete and total control over your bank account, where you can shop, where you can get medicine, what you can do. They are going to be able to tear down exactly what it is. And you and I will not be able to have this conversation if we feel like it online. We're not going to be able to, because they will say, sorry, you've lost 2 loaves of bread this week because you weren't complying or following in line, which means you have lost every bit of sovereignty that you ever thought you had. I mean, they've been doing it slowly for a long time, and people just kind of go, no, I can choose, I can go. Like when people are online and they're screaming about, what are you not free to do? You're free to go out, you're free to do this. Well, I'm not free to leave the country.
Right.
So, okay, I'm free to walk down to the grocery store. Gee, thanks.
Right.
You know, I'm not free to travel. The other day, I go out for a drive. It was Saturday. I just needed to get out of the house. So off the road I go. I'm on the road. I'm dancing to the music. I'm singing, drinking my coffee. And then all of a sudden, I'm following a cop. He pulls over to the side of the road and I pass thinking, okay, well, he's got to do his job. He pulls out right behind me, follows me all the way to town. You know, and I'm thinking, you're totally just intimidating me. I dare you to pull me over. Oh, I was like, what are you doing? You know, like I could not believe what I was seeing. It was just the craziest thing. And those are the things that I'm noticing that are happening. And
Let's
you know,
instill more fear. Let's instill more fear. I'm here to intimidate you. I'm here to make you feel that you are guilty. You're doing something wrong. Yes.
Exactly. Yep. You're not allowed to be driving. Don't be driving. Don't be out on the road. They don't want you to be out on the road. They don't want you to.
They don't want you to be happy.
No, they don't. They want to take your soul. They want to control your soul. They say, even if you look at the World Economic Forum, they're saying humans are hackable. That's what they said. Hackable. Like we are actually computers that they feel they have the right to come into our being and hack us.
Yeah.
And they believe these Gates, these Soros, these people, these Schwabs, Trudeau even, they believe that they have every right to tap into us to control society.
Yes. Yeah.
And they have no bones about saying it.
No. So, you know, it's like we're spiraling about what might happen. And that's what they're trying to do, is to control all that, right? And it's just mind control, just like you said, mind control.
Send out a narrative, see who falls for it, see who doesn't. The problem is that a lot of them do fall for it.
Yes.
You know, I have a lot of people who are just not feeling right. They don't feel good, right? There's something going on in their body. There's something going on in their brain. They're not thinking properly. Like these are just across the board things that I'm seeing in the people that I'm dealing with. And I'm, you know, all I keep thinking is that there's such an influx of, you know, is 5G really causing problems? I mean, could it be? Absolutely. There's people out there with Geiger meters or whatever the heck they're called and taking really high measurements. And then you go back to 1918 when they had the Spanish flu. Well, okay, the Spanish flu, it was a big pandemic, everybody wearing masks again. But what happened in 1918 that correlated Spanish flu? Do you know?
I'm not sure. Probably once you start telling me, it'll then flood in. But yeah,
Flood
yeah.
radar. They
Oh,
introduced radar to the world. And then they started putting, so this frequency of radar going out was causing people to feel sick, flu-like symptoms, and so on and so forth. So, was there a correlation to this? Who knows? I mean, history is written by the people who win, not the truth. So whoever wins gets to write whatever the hell they want.
yes.
And the problem that I've seen, because when you actually go and again, how I kind of deal with things is that I listen to what the mainstream or what the entertainment is saying about it. Then I go to the other side of it and then I find the middle. That's the only way you're going to be able to kind of filter through whatever is, because you will find the truth. Even in doing that, there's truth in that, because now you've seen both sides, but there is this side, that side, and the truth. There is three sides to it. And I honestly believe that if you are diligent enough, but the problem is most people don't have time to sit there and look at all of that stuff. It makes it very difficult. So if you don't have time to do the research, what does your senses tell you?
Right.
When you're watching something on TV and you sit there and you go, or something just doesn't, when something resonates as truth. It's not just about confirmation bias either. It is about, how do I feel? Because I even think the news says truth sometimes, and I can see it in there. And then you even go to the alternative news and they're doing the truth through other people's truth as well. Then it just kind of becomes agreement. That's sort of how you have to look at it. If everybody agrees that this is the truth, well, that's the agreement. But then there's me over here going, well, I think there's part truth there, or and there's part truth there. And then but then it also contradicts what the world sees. I mean, if I really went into what I believe the world is, you guys would be shocked, and it would just be a hard thing to, be able to wrap your head around, because we've been taught and indoctrinated for so long.
Yes.
It's just such a terrible thing, but how do you get it out there? I mean, we're doing this half an hour podcast, but how do you get it out there that, oh my God, you're being lied to?
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's like you said, pay attention. What is it that you're feeling when you're hearing this information? What are you feeling? That's what you have to listen to. You're deadening yourself by listening to all this crap that's going on, that's being spewed at us. And
Spewed.
yeah, and it's evil.
It's
evil, really very evil. Yes.
There is some very evil, nefarious things going on. And remember, when your body contracts, it's not for you. When it expands and goes wide and you're excited about it and you want to be part of it, it's more along those lines of, okay, yeah, I get this. This is good. Yes. But I will tell you, no matter what, you do have sovereignty. You do have control over your sovereignty. Mm-hmm. If you understand how to sort of be in it, and maybe that's being present and being in the moment. Maybe that's, I just don't agree. I'm not going to participate. Right. I understand what it is, but I'm not participating in this. And that's what I've been doing. Yeah. I don't agree with the mass. I'm not participating. Nope. And you have to stand brave and strong in that in some way too. You kind of got to be that rebel. I'm a little bit of a rebel, and I don't lose. That's the thing, right? I'm very competitive as well in a lot of ways, which isn't good sometimes, but I don't lose anything that I try or anything that I want to be good at. I try to be really good at it. I mean, that's just sort of the way I work. So I think that's really the way we need to be when it comes to all of this. I don't know. It's such a dirty conversation too.
Yeah. Well, I've been exposed to watching a YouTube show actually it's more than that, by a man called Mark Christopher. And he has really brought some things to light just to pay attention. And it's wonderful what he has to say. And I would suggest you watching his show, Mark Christopher. And you can get from it what you want from it. And that's all that what we're doing, Dana, is we're helping people to expose other possibilities of how to live your life. And it's finding answers that for yourself of what you need.
Living powerfully, that's what it is. What do you get from Mark Christopher?
What do I get? It's interesting because it's similar to what you talk about. It's, well, we've been conditioned to seeing things and thinking of things this a certain way, but like with you're exposing things that, oh my goodness, it's not all this way. It's and that's what I'm getting. If that's an easy way for me to explain about Mark Christopher.
It expands your consciousness.
Very much so.
I think that's what we're supposed to do. We can't be caught in this box, and we can't be caught in this sort of cognitive dissonance where everything is what we thought it was all along. Even I've changed. Like, I mean, as I say, I've looked into every conspiracy there is, only because I find them interesting. But there's truth in there. If you talk to a conspiracy theorist, they're actually researchers. They're historians in a way, because they go that far back. When there's a conspiracy, they will look at it from 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago. They'll even go into the Old Testaments and so on and so forth. They do the research. So anytime you ever kind of look at a conspiracy theorist and say, where's your tinfoil hat? I cannot stand that. But, you know, they don't get that those people are the ones digging in the library. They don't get that those are the ones that are going into the CIA documents and looking at patents that were released, you know, 100 years ago. They don't get that people are doing their research. And it's so interesting when I hear people, because conspiracy was designed in 1963 when they shot John F. Kennedy. That was the tagline. It's a conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy theory, which made it debunk everything, which made it gave it no credibility, or it gave it no clout, because it was a conspiracy. And then they've just used it throughout. But it's so interesting. Words are spells. That's why it's called spelling, right? So if you look at it in those ways, then you understand that, you know, when you talk to somebody, I mean, conspiracies can go a little bit crazy. We can always go into UFOs. We can go into, who shot Kennedy, that sort of thing. What if Kennedy never died? You know, what if John F. Kennedy Jr. is still alive? What if he all of a sudden stands beside Trump, you know, and he's 25 years older and he's standing there? What do you think that's going to do to the world psychology? And what if all of this is designed? And because even if you go into the back alternative news, is when it comes to Trump and when it comes to the virus and what have you, when you start really digging into it, there is crazy theories that are going on out there. But I can tell you, when I tap into some people, I can get some people on the other side. And a lot of them, when I speak to somebody from the other side, their energy is bigger, like they're larger. They're almost the size of the room in a lot of ways. But when I'm tapping into humans that are here, they're more compact. You can tell that they're more dense and they're more compact, and they're still here. So you can tell if they're here or if they're on the other side. And a lot of people who have been said to have died, like big actors and, you know, where it gets all over the news, are not dead. Did they go into hiding? You know, what happened? Why are they not dead? Did they want to get out of the public eye and they actually had to die in order to do that? And then it makes me think too, I know we're going down a rabbit hole here, but when David Bowie died, so it went out, David Bowie died, so on and so forth. And then I'm watching, what's that guy? Larry, what's his name? Larry
King.
King. I'm watching Larry King. And there's this guy that comes on and he sounds like Bowie. He kind of looks like Bowie, but he's got a wig on and he's got a pair of glasses on or something like that, acting like he knows Bowie very well, like they had been best friends for their entire life. And I'm thinking, you're Bowie. And he had to come on after his death. Well, then I'm watching him again. And Michael Jackson. There's a young man named David who sounds a lot like Michael Jackson, saying he's real good friends with Michael Jackson, and his name is David, and he got his skin burnt, and he was you can look at this all up, I swear to God, but it sounds like Michael Jackson. It's his voice.
Wow.
But he's dead, right? So I'm watching these and I'm thinking, these guys are just getting out of the public eye. This is their contract. They're ending their contract, but not their lives, or they didn't die or something like that. I mean, they've said Elvis has been alive for years. Who the heck knows?
Yeah.
I know.
I'm of the way that, we are of this physical, right? And then we go into the non-physical. So I don't know, Dana, but what you're saying is, you've got quite a keen sense of hearing and, being able to speak into the other realms and listen to what the other realms are telling you. So it's very possible, isn't it?
Well, I think anything is possible. And I think, honestly, even going down the conspiracy road, I mean, it's a rabbit hole that's never ending. So it's not always a good thing, because it does affect you as well. And it affects your energy when you're doing it. And when you start finding out truths and so on and so forth, it really affects how you live your day-to-day life. So you want to be really careful about that, everything in moderation as usual. But yeah, I mean, it's such a crazy world out there. I think I kind of like to give a bit of a prediction moving forward, if that's okay. And I think if you never want to say it's going to be this, that, or the other, but you want to believe and you want to be able to express the fact that if we are aware and we remain sovereign, and we see the world around us from spirit and light and love, if we live in that consciousness, and we do it to our neighbors and we do it to the people that we come in contact with, we do it gently and softly, we will create a reality. We will, just by doing that, because that's what becomes the agreement.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we kind of need to do. If we're predicting war and everybody thinks that we're going to war, well, then that becomes the agreement. Yeah. So where do you stand?
Dana, you're not going to believe this. I pulled 2 cards from 2 different decks.
Okay, cool. Let's go.
Okay, so I'll just go with the ask and it is given, okay? Every subject is 2 subjects, wanted and not wanted. There you go. And I pulled these cards before the show, okay? The next one is from Denise Lynn, and it's her Gateway Oracle cards, okay? So this one says, exceeding expectations. I soar into excellence. What did you say?
Soaring into excellence. Well, this is it. What do you agree to? What is it that you agree to? And this isn't about just you. It's not about just your family or your household. This is your community. Always remember, everything you want for your life is in your community, no matter what it is. You can find whatever it is that you want. So if you understand that, then you can actually go out in your community and create a life that you are looking for in every way. And I would say turn off the news, but I would stay apprised, because and be careful who you support. I mean, I had a lot of clients who wanted to have tarot cards and books and stuff like that. And I had it on my website, but I cannot stand Amazon.
Yep.
I don't support what their agenda is, and I don't support what they are doing. Mm-hmm. So I took it off my website. It took me hours to do this stuff. And I just was like, nope, I'm not doing it. So this is the way you can kind of see where you align to, where you don't. And I think that's what's so important. I love those cards. I truly think that first card was so appropriate.
Yes.
It couldn't have been more appropriate, because some people are not going to want to have this conversation.
No.
I don't even want to have it. Even as we're sitting here, it's like, I'm like, oh, but you hear everybody saying you've got to do what you've got to do, and you've got to have a voice, and you've got to do it in whatever way you can. So that's why I think this is so important. But I will put this out there. Heather, do you have anything that you would like to close off with?
Well, it's just, I'd love to have more conversations like this. Definitely needs to be discussed. And I would just, wish that people would just pay attention and not pay attention to the negative stuff, the brainwashing that they're putting out there. We have to make a change. And it begins with one person at a time, yourself, and then it'll go from there. But we have to make these changes and not believing all this stuff.
Have to recognize we've been lied to.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing. And as I'll leave it with a quote, as Mark Twain says, it is easier to lie to somebody than it is to convince them that they've been lied to. And unfortunately, you have been lied to. Everybody has. So we'll leave it at that. And until next time, please stay on the line though, Heather. Okay, don't leave. And I'll just stop the recording. It's been awesome. Join us tomorrow morning at 7:30 for our next podcast. And I hope everybody has a great day.